My name is Pat McBride, and I graduated from SLUH High in 1961. And from there, I went to SLUH University. I've had two sons that have gone through SLUH High, and one, Tim, graduated in 1989, and the other one, Brian, graduated in 1994. And my role, sometimes I'm called to help get the word out for reunions and that type of thing. I was one of three graduates in 1961 that helped organize our bi-monthly reunions, and which are still going on. We meet over at Duffy's in Kirkwood on the third Friday of every other month. So I guess that's my so-called commitment to SLUH High.
Why did you end up coming here?
That was a difficult decision. I grew up in North St. Louis. I grew up in Holy Rosary Parish. And there were four different places. I remember vividly having a conversation with my dad as to where are we looking at you going to high school and that type of thing. Do you have any interest that's real strong that, hey, I want to go there? And I said no. I said most of the eighth grade class was going to a school called DeAndre's, and DA for short. So I was interested in DeAndre's in Archdiocesan School. I was interested also in CBC. I was interested in Prep Seminary, and I was interested in SLUH High. So when it got down to the nitty-gritty, I think the biggest influence was my dad, who was a 1928 graduate of SLUH High. So I remember we're driving down 40 East, heading to Kings Highway, and we had just visited CBC, and Brother Daniel had me convinced that that was the place for me. And the only thing I didn't like about CBC was wearing the uniforms. And, my dad kind of really helped me out. As we passed by SLUH High, he said, "Son, that's where you're going." And I think he knew I was real close to going to CBC, to saying, hey, I really had a great visit. Soccer was a real interest to me even back then, and they had very good soccer teams. There were a couple players that played on the team and went to school at CBC that were from Holy Rosary. So they were kind of, trying to get me to go there, nudging me in that direction, and my dad really didn't want to give me too much time to think about it.
Okay. Who were some of the people when you were here that influenced you? So the ones that stick
Boy,
out.
that's easy. Ebby Dunn, who was the soccer coach, and I was lucky enough to make varsity as a sophomore, and I played as a sophomore, junior, senior for Ebby. And I'll tell you what, I didn't talk to Ebby probably not until the middle of my junior year. I mean, that's how much I respected him, and I also feared him. He just had this presence about him, and I think what really helped me was that in my junior year, I had Ebby for Algebra 2, and I really got to know him, and as I got to know him past high school and into, my college years, and we stayed in touch, Ebby would always tell me that, Pat, I don't look at myself as a coach, as a soccer coach. I mean, that's part of what I do. I am a math teacher, and that's where his real interest was. And he was a tremendous influence, because even when I was in college trying to pick out a major, I was interested in teaching down at St. Louis U. They had an education major, but it was still a very difficult major to go into, and Ebby persuaded me to really look into it. He thought I could really have a good career as as a teacher and as a coach. Two other, and they were so different. They were opposites as far as personalities. When I was a freshman, my second last class of the day was religion, and I had Father Hagen. And Father Hagen was, I don't know if he's ever raised his voice. He was very quiet, real laid back. And then our seventh period, I had Father Kellett. And Father Kellett, I mean, the two of them, there was such a contrast. Father Kellett would come in with this booming voice, and he was our Latin teacher, and he'd be going crazy, throwing chalk, throwing erasers, whatever he could get his hands on. And Father Hagen was just, you had to really listen to hear him. But they both, Father Hagen was a mentor to me, especially my freshman, sophomore year, and he was great. And it was neat for me to see the two different personalities and how they fit in. Father Kellett was dynamic. He had so much charisma, was so much interested in athletics, and especially football and basketball. Not much soccer, because soccer at that time was December through March. And it was crazy. I mean, if I went out for basketball, I was hoping, hey, you know what? If I can make the basketball team, I'm not going to be playing in the snow and on frozen fields. And Dominic Colaci, it was his first year. He had a little mark on the wall that you had to be at least 5 feet tall, all right? Otherwise, you were on the D team, I was on the D team. So I said, you know what? I think I'll go out for soccer, because I was a good soccer player and back then. And it was funny because I got cut as a freshman. And when I went by the cafeteria, they had listings up there, who made the team and that. I mean, I just had teardrops just rolling down my face. And because as a seventh and eighth grader, I was a good player. I'm not saying, I was the best coming out of seventh and eighth grade. There were a lot of good players. But then, lucky enough, the players got together and they went to Mr. Carney was our coach, who was a Scholastic at the time. And they talked to him and they said, hey, you know what? We think you should give Pat McBride another look, and just invite him to practice and see how he does. And he was great. He came up to me and he said, hey, listen, they made me the C-team soccer coach, so I really am just being introduced to the sport, so hey, would you come out? And I think my size was really against me at that time, just like it was in basketball. So, I went out and, I made the team, and was lucky enough that Ebby had enough interest that I made it as a sophomore. And, who knows what would have happened, because by the time I finished, I had a scholarship offer. At that time, it wasn't a big scholarship, but it was enough of an interest that Bob Gelker wanted me to play down at SLUH.
Okay. What do you think is special about SLUH High?
Boy, there are so many things. That's such a difficult question. I do not think SLUH High is for everybody. I really, really don't. But I think that if you're well-rounded enough that the opportunities are there in terms of education, getting a heck of an education, you're going to be challenged, and what you have to do, I remember my dad would tell me that just the idea of taking your studies seriously. Hey, I'm not looking at all A's, thank God. I'm looking at effort, and you're going to be challenged. And if you can make it, at the end of 4 years, hey, you're going to have such a great foundation, you're going to have such a great base that all the hard work is really going to be worth it. it's well-rounded from the standpoint if athletics is your thing and you really want to get after it. The coaching is tremendous. I think each and every coach here has had a remarkable career, and I think if you're interested in acting, that is there. There's so many different ways in which you go, and I think St. Louis U High, better than most schools, takes the individual, looks at the individual, and hey, this is what we can do for this particular student. But it's a two-way street. The student has to be willing to really make some sacrifices. The other thing is, I really feel is the bonding that you have with other students. We were on a track system, and it didn't take us long to figure out, the A students, hey, the B students, and I happen to be at the other end, but everybody got along. It wasn't like there was a real effort to bond, and for we had 7 classes. Hey, the students that were in the top 2-3 classes, hey, they, through sports, through plays, senior follies, that type of thing, it was great. You had that challenge. I guess what I like most is that, hey, there's and I think the Jesuits were great at this, that there's the need for the serious study and try to figure out where you're headed and what you want to do. And if you can, by the time you're a senior in high school, figure out that, you know what, I think I want to be a coach. I think I want to be an engineer. I think I want to be a doctor, lawyer. Boy, you've got a heads up on a lot of people coming out of high school, and I think that St. Louis U High does that better than any high school in the area.
Okay. What would you tell a prospective parent? Why should they send their sons to St. Louis U High, and what should they expect in return?
Well, the first thing I would suggest would be, and I think they do it, the shadow idea of taking a day or taking 2 days where you can shadow some of the kids that are currently at St. Louis U High to see how, now, is that going to be a good fit for you? Are you going to be happy in that situation? You hear about, I've got a grandson that went through the Kirkwood school system and, just really liked it. And I'm not so sure that after going through the first 8 years that, hey, not having girls around, hey, would be something to his liking. But so I think the shadowing would really help from that standpoint. I would think that as long as, I would tell a parent that I would really, really stick to my guns in terms of the effort. And you're going to be challenged. You're going to be hopefully become a serious student. You're going to have a good idea of where you're headed, but there's going to be also the growth that you're going to also feel as far as your outside the classroom life. And I think they do a great job with that, and I think parents, the opportunity for parents to get involved, that's the other thing I would say, get involved. It's one thing to go to parent-teacher meetings, and hey, those were great. My 2 sons, again, 89 and 94, believe it or not, there were some teachers that were still there that had me in 61, and at each one would tell me, hey, you know what, Tim's doing good, don't help him, because Tim was really a good student. And I'd say, hey, don't get back to Tim with that, I don't want him to know. And Brian, the same thing. It was pretty funny. But the opportunity to get involved. and find out what's going on is there. It's up to you. You have to be proactive, I think, in terms of they're not going to be calling you, hey, we need you in the Father's Club. You know, you're going to get an opportunity to join, but hey, if you pass on it, they're not going to bug you. You know, do you want to, when you're playing sports, you know, are you going to be proactive, or are you going to just kind of sit on the sidelines? So.
Well, Pat, thank you very much. Is there anything else you want people to know about SLUH High, and you, whatever?
No, it's just looking back on it. It was a great experience, and I really liked the opportunity that you gave me to come in and to talk about it, and it was fun. It was a great experience. I have no second thoughts about hey, the other high schools, what would have happened had I gone, had I gone there. Well, of course, prep seminary, that might be a little bit different, but no, it was fun.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me.